what was memorable about 2023 for you? As if it's
Mm.
already gone. What was
Ah, one of the great things about 2023 is I reached a goal that was a long time goal,
okay.
like something I wanted to do for years. And it had gotten to the point that I wasn't quite sure if it was going to happen. So
Mm.
the thrill of actually accomplishing that goal.
You
Yes.
gonna tell us the goal?
I got promoted to director in my
Promotion.
in my travel network. So that
Okay.
was really special for me.
So that's the big goal. So that's memorable because I think sometimes we tend to focus on what didn't work. We don't take the little time to see a lot of good. I'm sure a lot more happened, but that was a whole journey. I feel like I was part of that journey with you. It was like it was almost like a marathon, but you know how you have to train for the marathon, so it's not like you start the marathon on the
Mhm.
day of the marathon. So the journey
Right.
started before the whole push started, right? And so sometimes we learn a lot of things because it's almost like a challenge, right? Where it's testing different part of your muscles, different part of who you are. And so as you were pushing, I would say that's the favorite word. We use push and run all the time. So as you were going for this goal, like what did you learn about yourself in that process that you may not have known? I feel
Mm.
like you were tested a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. I learned that I'm stronger than I think,
Mm.
because as I was pushing towards the goal, there are a lot of other people that were pushing too and
Mm.
kind of fell to the wayside, you know. At this any little slight sign of disappointment, any little slight sign of challenge. And for me, it was no, failure is not an option. This is what I want. This is what I want right now. And this is what I'm going to get. And as I stated that, more and more opportunities became clear to me because my mental focus was this is going to happen and this is going to happen now, and then it made me more aware of the possibilities.
I love that because I think sometimes we also get to a point where like maybe it'll be easy if I just stop. Right? It's like you at 13 miles, I use the marathon a lot because we have that in Boston and multiple cities have it, right? Where you're going. And I know there's a section that you reach where it's just like, whoo, I think both legs are like, we are not going over this hill. I don't think we're gonna make it over the hill. And so, was there a moment as you were going through, or you were just like for you, you like stopping is not an option, and knowing like we focus so much on possibilities, where you just like tunnel vision, you're like, I'm gonna make it to the finish line, whether I'm like sweating, bleeding, I don't have the energy. You're gonna push till you reach your destination.
Now, you mentioned the marathon. We have the
Mhm.
marathon out here in New York, and that analogy, it helped me because with the marathon, there's always that handful of people where hours after the
I know
race
they're
has
coming.
finished.
I see them with you'll be dark. You'll be real dark. And I'm like, whoa, they are still in the street. They're still
And
going.
they saying to themselves,
Yep.
I know the race is basically over, but I need to finish.
Hmm.
So I actually kept that in my mind.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to be like those marathon runners where it's like, I might not be the first, but I'm going to get this done. So there was never a point where I felt like, okay, I'm going to stop.
Hmm.
But there were a couple of points where I wondered, okay, this is getting a little hard, it's getting a little challenging. But I looked at my why.
Mm.
In my home office, I have a picture of my daughter, and she is the reason why I have to push so hard. And I have the little sticky on the photo
Yeah.
that said, failure is not an option. There's always a way to get what you want. You just have to find it. That's something my mom, rest her soul, she told me when I was younger. She said, there's always a way to get what
Mm,
you want. You just have
yeah.
to find it. So it helps to spark the creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to know that. And I think sometimes people, especially you do get tired. And I think sometimes we see the people at the finish line, we
Right.
see you when you being recognized. And I think sometimes we forget the journey. People may think it was like a straight line, like you did it in like a few minutes, a few days, a few months, and you're like, woo, give me my award or give me my, the reward and stuff. And they don't see the sweat and all the things that happen, stopping a little bit and then still be able to see the finish line. So there are people who will meet you when you're being recognized, when you reach the goal, versus thinking before you even get to the why and what got you to that point in terms of for you to even say you knew you were gonna make it, like failure was not even an option. So since your daughter is your why, I want people to get a little sense in terms of your story because sometimes we only get one side of the person. Is the
Mhm.
business person, is the person in the community, the public Victoria, that's what they get to see. But finish that sentence. What does it make you think of when I said there was a time when Victoria? Like what was happening before the big success you experiencing?
There was a time when I was frustrated, overwhelmed, depressed, and anxious. There was a time when my daughter hated me.
Ooh.
And, it's incredible because a lot of people say, oh, no, she didn't really hate you. I'm like, no, yes, she did. Because the thing is, I was this highly acclaimed social work supervisor. I had all these awards, New York City Department of Children and Families from multiple agencies.
Yeah.
And they say dedication to children and families, right? Outstanding contribution, outstanding community service. And in order for me to be that person given to the community, I had to work long hours. And
Mhm.
as a single mom, a lot of the times my daughter was with the babysitter while I was out being this champion for other people. So she sat back and she watched people cheer me on. And she's looking like, well, what about me?
Mm.
You know? And it was very hard.
Yeah.
But and I never forget one time I was at work and a lady came in, she threatened to kill me and my staff.
Mm-mm.
And so, of course, that was a day I had to be in the office longer, right? A lot longer than I anticipated because I couldn't get home. And I'm on the telephone with my daughter, like, mommy's coming home soon, sweetie.
Any minute now. Any minute.
I'll, I'll be there as soon as I can. And while I'm in the midst of handling this crisis, and the craziest thing is, at that moment, I felt more miserable about having to disappoint my child than the fact that
Mhm.
this woman was there threatening to kill me and everybody, because I was letting my daughter down once again. But the beautiful thing is, you know, the business that I have now helps me to connect with her. When I was that social worker, it's really ironic because we get paid to help people, we get paid to keep children and families together. But back then, they really didn't care too much about family leave and family time and to understand all of that. So I try to explain to my daughter the best that I could that I was needed to work. And when I look back on it as an adult, I realized I was repeating the pattern
Mm.
because my father, rest his soul, that was his thing. He was always at work. He missed a lot of my personal things. He missed a lot of the awards I had in school. He missed several graduations. And when I spoke to him about it, he asked me a question. He said, did you prefer for me to be there? Or was it more important for me to make sure you had what you need so
Mm.
that you could be there? So he explained to me, it's like, either I had to work to make the money to pay for your graduation dress, to pay for your gown, to pay for your shoes, or to be there. It's like I wasn't able to do both,
Right.
you know.
But that's
And so,
nice.
yeah, right. So it's incredible. But one of the good things about it is when I started my business and having my daughter along with me, and to have her say, now I know my mom loves me.
Mm.
She was able to see the process. She was hearing me talk to people and being able to take those family vacations and, to have my daughter to say, oh, we're getting a chance to spend time together and, to really see the benefits. So there was a time when I worked really hard for someone else, hard to the point where I got sick. I
Mm.
got very sick. And to have the doctor tell me that, my job was killing me.
Mhm.
So here it is. Can you imagine? You dedicate 17 years of your life to a profession. You sacrifice time with family and friends for your profession. To have somebody tell you that it's killing you, you can't do it anymore. So it feels good to be at a stage now. I look younger now than I did
Mm.
20 years
I saw
ago.
those pictures. You love doing those pictures. You're like
Right?
2019, 2023, 2024. And then next year, every year you're like, I am aging backward. I am aging
Yes.
backward.
Yes.
Well, it's good to be in that kind of business because usually I think sometimes people look older because they're working more, they're more tired, they're more overwhelmed, and so they don't age well, right? That's one of the things. It doesn't happen where people think it's a natural way of
Mm,
being to be exhausted and just like I don't have the
yes.
energy. Where versus now where some people might say you seem happier, you're always smiling, you just
Yes.
like
Yes.
exploring new places, you're still looking forward to like
Exactly.
to do things. You
Yeah.
still like people.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, it's a real challenge because, I have a brother who has worked for many, many years. I had my very first job, I was 14 years old. And my brother had his very first job, he was 17.
Mhm.
And we both have worked since,
Right.
because that's what we were taught to do. Right. So when I see my brother, who's a few years older than me, I see him dragging his leg. I see him limping. I see him tired. And it's like, oh my goodness. I see sometimes his body looks beat down. I remember the young man who, studied karate and the young man who went to the gym. So to see in my own family what happens when you have the benefit of taking vacation and the benefit of your free time versus having to be on your feet every day and not being able to take the care that your body really needs.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good way where you can always make a shift. I think sometimes people think like, let me just keep doing what I've always done. And I think especially when like the end of the year and your birthday are very close. And so I know this is time when you might start reflecting and thinking where you've been, where you are, where you want to go. And then really thinking about like what shift are you gonna make because of the way this year was or because of how of who you're becoming, right? So next year I want to think about because for me sometimes we in a business where we know we can have exceptional, we can have very joyful experiences. And so we can have things we're like, wow, I can't believe I went here. Wow, I can't believe I did this, or even the goals that you're reaching. But how will you intentionally make sure, like, what are three things you're going to do to make sure your next chapter and next year is a wow experience for you?
Well, I plan to take bolder moves.
Older moves, okay.
Yes, bolder moves. I sometimes shy away from being in the forefront.
Mm,
I can be that leader on the second tier, right? Where I'm that vice president, that helper, But this year, I've actually have an opportunity to be the president
okay.
of an organization where it's going to put me up in the front. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with what that means. So one of the things is taking the bolder move. The second thing is influencing more people. You know, God has blessed me to have a voice, to have connections, and I want to see how many other people I can help this year, like truly help and run through the numbers, and not just within my city, but globally.
Ooh, the world, the world.
Yeah,
So now we're talking
globally.
about global impact
Yes,
through your business.
exactly. You know, and what's fascinating about it, like during the pandemic, especially, I had people reach out to me on social media, and how humbling it was to have people reach out to me to let me know that they're praying for me
Mm,
because they trusted the fact that if I was blessed, that I would bless other people.
mhm,
And that was so beautiful for me to know, that there were people who actually trusted me with that. People who I have not met face to face, but just by them kind of reading my posts, reading some of the things I put out there, hearing my, little short videos. And I said to myself, wow, it's nice to know that they can hear my heart, because that really is what I have planned, to be able to help people. I happen to have outlived about 4 people in my family.
wow.
So I'm what, 52? Yeah, 52. And I have a nephew who died when he was 25. I have a sister who died when she was 35. I have a brother who died 45 on my birthday.
Mm,
And I have, my grandmother. I never knew my grandmother. She died at 40, before I was born. So I do not take it lightly, the fact that I'm still here and that I'm still here with all these blessings. And so I say to myself, it must be a bigger purpose that I'm still here. And that's the wow is going to be me finding out the reason, right? So they say, I heard a couple of great people say that the 3 most important dates in your life are the date you're born, the date you die, and the date that you find out your purpose.
mm.
So 2024 is going to be the wow year because I'm going to be open to learning and listening to be more on purpose.
More. I know that's gonna be the magic word that's gonna be happening. So within the wow, sometimes wow is just wow in terms of saying wow. And I think looking at our lives, whether now or later, to be able to, whether it's an experience or something that happened. And I think we have wow moments all the time, but we downplay them. Like there are things that happen every day. And so we always talking about intention and gratitude. So as you're looking back, so all those things are connected. What's the biggest thing where you feel like I'm grateful for this every day?
Right. Well, I'm definitely grateful for the ability to travel
Mm,
because, like I said, I suffered from depression and anxiety for a long time. And when I started traveling, it helped to put things in perspective,
mhm,
right? Because when you travel from the States and you end up on another continent, you end up in another country, just being in that plane over those clouds, like you're not thinking about that little problem that you had, the concern. And you know what? Every single time I've gotten off an airplane, I've never seen the same people in the
mm,
airport. So, like, just the simple knowledge of that, like, you're seeing the grandioseness of this world. You're seeing the beauty of all these different places, and it helps you to have a true understanding that this little thing I'm worried about.
mm.
Like there's so much more. Because I used to be depressed over something that happened at work. worrying about the job. Am I going to have my job? What's going to happen if we don't get our contract extended? And people don't realize financial stress and job stress is like this great stress that looms over you. But being free and traveling and having travel as an income business, it's really a phenomenal experience. So I'm definitely grateful every day for being able to travel.
I love that. I think I think that's the beauty of like being reminded of certain things, because the I knew there were great positive benefits, right, to travel. And it doesn't have to be like far. Like we love going to other countries, other states, and wherever, right? And so the idea that one thing that shocked me through our work is that one vacation. It's almost like a slogan: one vacation can save your life. I don't know if there's a slogan or commercial out there where people don't realize just that one. To me, travel can become a habit, right? That one positive habit in terms of taking that time for yourself, wherever it could be, can have a positive effect on your health. And I think there are some people who might be listening where they're working this to have the job that's stressing them out. They may even have the business that's stressing them out. I think a lot of people miss that boat. And I think as I was listening to it, at first I was like, stress is really at the core of everything. So there are people I know for a fact being, in the wellness field where you go in and you're trying to figure out what is wrong, what's wrong. And I'm telling you, there's no x-ray for the stress. Like you could go for all kind of tests and you're like, they can't find it. And I'm telling you, with most people, myself included, stress is at the core of it. Like there are people, the job, the work, just being out in the street, whether you're driving or taking public transportation, just being out in the world. You could just turn on your TV and you're just stressed and you're still in your house. And so to me, that's part of the mission in terms of there is a way to have ease and flow, to have joy. And when
Yes.
you think of this business, there are some people who are like, well, that's you. Like you had your job, you were able to get your money, and now you're doing this. For the people who are literally giving themselves all the reason why they're not the one who can start a business and still do whatever they're doing, the job or another business they might be doing, what would you say to them in terms of, because you make that shift? I love talking with people who've had a 9 to 5 or may still have a 9 to 5, and the ability to give yourself permission or even the willingness to say, you know what, I can start something. Like it doesn't have to be anything huge, but I think sometimes people automatically disqualify themselves because I'm sure at some point you're like, me? I feel like I've heard you said the social worker is gonna be an entrepreneur. I agree, right? So there are still more people like you out there who are like, I don't think I was born to be an entrepreneur, to do something different, or to have a new chapter where you're not just a worker, right? Like we know it's okay to have your job or to have the work you're doing or one business. What would you say to that person who's like, I don't think that's me?
Well, I let them know I didn't think that was me either. It took me 2 years from the time that my brother first suggested
Mm,
that I become an entrepreneur, um, to the time that I actually went for it. And the great advice that he told me was, you will start and you will learn. So one of the biggest challenges that people have is they want to have all the answers before they
mm,
start.
yeah.
They want to know what's going to happen from A to Z before you start. But you have to be comfortable with starting and not having all the answers. And one way to do that is committing to yourself the fact that you're going to learn. I said to myself, I'm going to be a continuous learner. And that has helped me so much in my business. It has helped me stay competitive, ahead of the curve, um, just studying people, studying the trends. And one of the things that helped me to become a full-time entrepreneur is having been a supervisor, right? So when I was a social worker, I actually became a supervisor. And for several years, I supervised folks. And what I learned in that level was scary. So a
Mm,
lot of times people go to work and they say, well, I'm good. My job is great. I was interviewing for people's positions while they were on lunch breaks. You know, we always had resumes. The boss would hand me the folder and say, "Here, so and so is out today. I need you to interview." And
Oh,
I'm saying, "Wow, so this is how we do," right? And not only that, there was one place where I worked. I saw on the news they had announced that the agency was closing after 25 years. Would you believe the executives of the organization were trying to convince people that we did not see what we saw?
no, you didn't.
That we were confused about. And I'm like, no, but the commissioner said that we're closing. It had become such a hostile work environment because there was a segment of us who had heard the news
Mhm.
and a segment of the people who did not want to believe. And so I realized for myself, I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. I'm scared to be an entrepreneur, but I'm willing to work for people who are going to interview for your position while you're on your lunch break, while you're out sick.
Yeah.
I'm willing to work for people who are going to lie to you and tell you that your job is still going to be there in 2 weeks when they know that it's closing. I think I need to trust myself
Yeah.
and dedicate myself to putting the work in. And once I looked at it like that, I was really good with it.
Going to do it. Yeah, I think that's a big lesson for some people because we go to bat for a lot of people. We bet on other people. We work and support other people's dreams, right? Depending on what line of work you in. And I think one of the things we don't see enough of, I would say, is people, particularly, I would say, women don't bet enough on themselves. Now, even if you now, there's no guarantee. Like a lot of time, you thinking like because we're saying take the leap or start something, it means there won't be any roadblocks. There won't be that marathon is gonna be a straight line. You're gonna make it to the finish line, but this is the part where, without knowing, like you were saying, some people want to have the answers. They want to plan everything. They want to coordinate. They're like, okay, I'm going to do this. Where this is almost like taking a leap. And we've done that for other people where it's like we hear
Yeah.
it. That's the beauty of like, okay, I see the vision. I see what you're trying to do. And we would support. Like we're talking like, I am with you versus ourselves. And so I think that's like, if people are not giving themselves permission, I think hearing your story, I'm hoping it will give others permission to say, I can too. At least take the first step. You may not do the whole marathon just like you in the same amount of time, but at least let's take a step toward that. And so, as you know, we talk a lot about worthiness, and that's what even inspired this idea of wow. So when you hear worthy of, what's the W would stand for you? What are you worthy of?
Worthy of wealth. Yeah. To see, a lot of us, we come from households where we're told money's evil, right? You hear crazy slogans like robbing Peter to pay Paul,
Mm.
and hear parents talk about making a dollar stretch. Like I used to hear my parents, I love my parents so much, but I would listen to them talk and I'd be like, how do I make a dollar stretch? Like, what does that mean? And the words that came out their mouth, like, we're making ends meet, like all this
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
And what it all boiled down to was we don't have enough money for what we want. And we're trying to figure this
Make it
out.
work. Make it work. We're gonna stretch everything. But that's a
Yeah.
scarcity. But I do know people have make something out of nothing and it's still happening. But it's a question of if there is a way where you don't have to really overstretch that dollar, where you can simply be able to learn how to make money. Like sometimes we use the beautiful word, we're like prosperity, we want to be abundant. And so I think it's okay to say more money, to be independent, to be able not to stress, because that's the biggest thing a lot of people are losing sleep over. And it's not in competition with who you are, who you being in the world. And you want to have a global impact. I think it's a little tough to have global impact when you're struggling.
Exactly.
And
Right.
so So it's like people have to really take
Exactly.
that into account and
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Because
no.
guess what? If you're struggling, you can't travel across the globe to meet with people and
And
all.
it's
So
that, and you may not have the mean. What globe are you going to, right?
exactly. So it felt really good, when the network put the opportunity there to say, okay, we're going to travel to Puerto
Yeah,
Rico. For me to say, okay, I got that. I can do that. I can go. There's going to be a lot of people that would love to go that can't afford it.
right.
You
But
know,
even that is another thing, right? Where it's like I don't even allow myself to say that because it's like for real, there are some people who financially they cannot afford it. But then if
right,
it's something you really want, and I think that's the thing you offer, where it's like I can show you how you can actually have what it takes
right,
to be able to go and know that it's something that you can have, you deserve it, and you can create that wealth for you to be
yeah,
able to comfortably say, I can go and not stress and not worry when you slide that credit card and be like, ooh, let it let it go through, right? So these are all the things I think being an entrepreneur, being knowing how to be wealthy, right? There's a difference between like acting rich, pretend to be rich and doing rich things in comparison to having the wealth to truly have the wild life and lifestyle
yeah.
that
Hmm.
you want and you can create it, right? It's not going to come from somebody else. It's not going to come from the job or those people. And I think that's the beautiful things I with the work you're doing where one thing I would say that's a positive, there are many positive, is the fact that there are people rooting for you to succeed and to be wealthy.
Yeah.
Even though we are referred as so many different things, one of the things I think is amazing as I was looking at I think it was the wings. I was like, to see yourself as I always see myself more as a community builder, but to also be a wealth builder and helping people do that as I do it. Because sometimes you can get yourself out, but you cannot show other people how to do the
Right.
thing. Some people are like, I can do this. And I'm like, can you show me how to do X? But they can't. But to be in a position where you've done it, you can show other people who want to, because if people are not willing, it's not going to happen. And so
Right.
I'm hoping this new chapter that you want to help people and that those people who want the help are also looking for you. And then that would be a nice way to meet in the middle and to find that community. And so as we look ahead, I'm hoping we'll look back on this conversation and seeing a year from now as you're looking back, right? We're looking back and ahead, right? So what would you want to see 12 months from now? What would you like to see happen?
I would love to see um, more men who are smiling with their families
Mm,
because they can be proud of themselves that they didn't do what they had to do. That used to be a thing you hear a lot of people say when it was something illegal, right? Say, I got to do what I got to do to make money for my family. No, you just got to be a man. Be a
mm.
man, step up, be your own boss. I would love to see more men being able to use this opportunity so they can care for their family and be that proud father, be that proud husband in the family unit. I would love to see women who came out of domestic violence situations because they realized they didn't have to stay with an abusive partner because that partner was paying the bills. I would love to see more community organizations where um, I may have went in and teach somebody about how they could use the travel program to raise funds for their nonprofit. So you may have some more community centers that were able to stay open, that's providing for the community. I would love to look back at young people, that age between 17 years old and 24, where you're not this seasoned adult, but you still need help. You still need some type of guidance. So I would love to see a lot of people in that age group that I was able to reach out to, because that's a wonderful age where at that age we're usually so bold and so open and so optimistic. And if you have the wrong person to step in at that time
Yeah,
and leave a bad impression,
yeah.
we end up with the bitter folks. So I would love to be able to look back on photos from different countries,
Mm.
when I was able to give somebody information about entrepreneurship, and they realize that what's happening in their city
Mhm.
is not what's happening in the world, and that they don't have to be limited to what's happening within their four walls.
There's a
And I
lot.
was, yeah, and it's definitely possible.
Yeah. So I'm
It's definitely
hoping as people are listening to you too, where this is an invitation, right, to reach out if they connect with anything you're saying, well, like, I'm interested. I'm hoping people are curious and be like, I want to talk to you and be willing to have a conversation and say, show me how you've done that. Or let me introduce you to this group or this organization or to that young person who's looking for a mentor, and to say yes to an opportunity to just looking to see what's possible. And I love the fact that we started talking about possibility. But in order for
yeah.
it to be possibility or even possible for you, you have to be willing to even say yes. So we out of
Yes.
time. I think this thing is just gonna cut us off. We could talk forever. So thank you for taking the time to share your passion. And I'm gonna include your information so people know how to reach you and schedule a chat with you and learn more. More.
Thank you.